Unleashing the power of your pets. Power. Talk radio with bites. We're Pet Life Radio, the #1 pet radio network. Let's talk pets.
Okay. And good morning, good afternoon. You are here live with Dr. Jeff Werber, your host for the next 30 minutes here on Pet Life Radio's Ask the Vets with Dr. Jeff. We're here for you. We're here for your pets. We're here to answer questions. And it's a freebie for you. We've got free advice. Come on. What could be bad about free? So anyway, just a number of ways to get a hold of us. If you have any questions about your pets, anything you want to talk about in the animal world, I'm here. I'm game for it. Area code 888-520. I'm about to, it's funny, I'm about to give you my pager number, which you can have as well. So it's, anyway, 877-385-8882. Once again, 877-385-8882. Better way to join us here live, however, is through Google Hangouts. You just log on to Pet Life Radio, go scroll down on shows to Ask the Vets with Dr. Jeff, and you will have a Google Hangouts link waiting there for you. And that'll put you live right here with me here on Pet Life Radio's Ask About Dr. Jeff, where we can talk about, as I said, anything for your pets. And this is, and I've said it before. We're something that I'm working on is getting closer, but they're out there, and that is telemedicine, telehealth. And just like in humans, in human medicine, I think 75% of practices offer some type of telemedicine. And it's in the human world, and 8.5 million Americans used again some sort of telemedicine app or telemedicine service last year, 2018. So kind of tells you that it's a growing field. And interestingly, the rules are a little bit different on the human side. It's actually easier on the human side than it is on the veterinary side. But those are details we're going to get through. But if you have something called a VCPR, which is a veterinary client-patient relationship, then you can actually your pet can be diagnosed and treated. I mean, your vet taking a phone call can actually call a pharmacist in, get the medication if they have a relationship with you and your pet. So that's very important on the veterinary side. Otherwise, the veterinarian you talk to could suggest, could recommend, could tell you what he or she thinks is going on and what some of the solutions might be. Those are the key words, think and might, but they can't be definitively a diagnosis. Anyway, in the news, oh, by the way, I should add, I am in a pretty good mood today. I'm always in a good mood, but I mean, a better mood. My Rams won last night. They beat the Cowboys 30-22. I was at the game. It was a lot of fun. Anyway, so now we just, I guess, it'll be interesting to see whether the Rams are going to meet the Saints again if they beat the Philadelphia Eagles, and that's exactly what's going to happen. Otherwise, it'd be very interesting. Otherwise, so a couple things in the news just to talk about. We've talked about this over last year. The new influenza virus vaccine. It actually is a bivalent, which means it takes care of the H3N2 and the H3N8 strains of the influenza virus. And most of the times, you talk about if it's recommended, if it's insisted, then I guess you can go ahead and do it. We're not seeing a ton of cases. However, it is interesting that one of the recommendations now are, and many of these facilities, which we'll talk about, are recommending it now as well, and not a bad idea. Not that it's necessarily deadly, but it does cause some pretty severe respiratory infection. So any kind of like a doggy daycare facility, a dog park, a groomer, a boarding facility. So if your dog frequents any of these types of businesses, if you go to the dog park every day, or the agility classes, or doggy daycare, boarding, grooming, it would be, well, first of all, a lot of them are actually now requiring it. And that's how I ended up using it in the first place, because a number of my clients were calling, and they were regulars at these doggy daycare facilities, and they started insisting, requiring that they have the influenza vaccine. So I went ahead and ordered. I ordered a tray. The trays come in 25 doses. Once I had it, I think I went through that tray in about 3 weeks. So more and more and more establishments are requiring it. And I think it's just a good idea to have. It's better to play it safe if you're putting your pet at risk. I'm always, when it comes to vaccine, it's always about the risk versus the benefits. And sometimes if the risk is great of your pet getting a certain or being exposed to a certain infection, a certain virus, then for sure it's worth getting the vaccine. If the risk of the vaccine itself outweighs the benefit, because then don't do it. For example, in one of my personal choices, it comes to coronavirus, I do not recommend it. Coronavirus in dogs it's like a 24-hour stomach flu. It's not deadly. But you're just adding another vaccine, and we know that any vaccine is not without some type of potential risk. So, since they're getting so many other vaccines on a regular basis, as you know, I like the titers. I do a lot of titering for the distemper parvo in lieu of giving the vaccine. I am not a big fan of blanket leptospirosis as part of the distemper. However, if a dog does a lot of hiking or is in areas where lepto is prevalent, then of course, yes, you do it. So this is where you speak to your veterinarian. Very important to come up with what is the likelihood of a dog getting a certain a disease or a cat getting a certain disease. As I mentioned, here in Los Angeles and California, actually, rabies vaccine for cats is not required. Well, how are my 6 indoor cats going to be subjected to rabies or feline leukemia virus for that fact? So therefore, I don't recommend vaccinating. I don't vaccinate my cats against either of those two. So it's very important to sit down with your veterinarian, come up with a game plan based on logic, not based on a manufacturer's recommendation. I mean, the vaccine manufacturer, not based on what you read, what you saw on Dr. Google. Talk to your veterinarian. What is best? Every pet is an individual. So make sure you make the decisions based on the individuality of your pet, your lifestyle, your pet's lifestyle, and take it from there. Here's another microchip triumph. We love microchip triumphs. As you know, I'm a big fan of microchipping. This dog named Jasper was going for, check this out, 8 years. 8 years. He was lost from his home in Louisiana and somehow ended up in Houston, where a family apparently adopted him. And then they turned him into a shelter because they were moving or whatever the reason. And this shelter, for the first time, actually scanned the dog and found out that, yes, he had an owner, and reunited with his owners in Louisiana 8 years later. That's a great story. What bothers me is when they found the dog in the first place, don't you think they would have taken him to the vet when they brought this adult dog to the veterinarian for the very first time? Oh God, that's great. Where'd you adopt him from? We didn't know. We found him. Don't you think that vet should have taken the scanner out right there? I mean, in day 1 or day 2. I mean, it blows my mind that for 8 years, this dog was not scanned. It was clearly a stray until it ended up at a shelter in Houston, Texas, from Louisiana. So anyway, that's good news. Jasper is back home. And what the story was saying is that Jasper, it was almost like the 8 years never happened. He was back into his old self, immediately reacted to the family, to the other dogs. Apparently they live on some kind of farm. They have 4 dogs and 11 cats and geese and all the sorts of other animals. And Jasper fit right in. That's really a cool story. United Airlines joined Delta Airlines on this one. I'm telling you, making it more and more difficult to fly with your pets. But animals younger than 4 months will not be allowed in the cabin. And the reason for that, they say, is because usually if they're less than 4 months, they haven't completed their vaccine series, which is kind of true because you end it at 4 months, at 16 weeks of age. So they are worried about the potential exposure. They don't want any kind of hassles because they weren't completely vaccinated or giving something to one of the other dogs. Also, they're banning emotional support dogs or animals on flights longer than 8 hours. And the reasons for that, as they say, are obvious. I like the terminology I read in this article. They don't want to say it because the dogs are pooping all over or got to go pee, right, on the plane. They say they're onboard incidents. There's a large number of onboard incidents, which is a really nice way to say it. So now anything over 8 hours, these animals will not be allowed. So you might have to start making other plans or break up your flights. I don't know how you're going to do that. But if you're flying, for example, no more like direct flights. You're going from LA to Heathrow, for example. You're going to have to stop in New York. So anyway, that's if you want to take advantage of flying with your pets, that's you got to pay for it some way. A story on pet insurance, and as we know, pet insurance is nothing like people insurance as far as numbers of people versus pets, or pets, I should say, versus people that have it. In the veterinary world, it's guesstimated that only 2% of pets are insured, which means 98% aren't. And so the recommendations here, and this was done by economists in the pet world, and they're consumer experts. They just make the following recommendation. It's very important to compare the insurance companies and the premiums and what they're offering, because the concern there is that if you add up the premiums and then factor in the deductibles, it might be better off, they say, you really need to evaluate it. I'm not paying one way or the other. That it might be more than what you'd be spending. Of course, when you think about how insurance companies make their money, they're banking that you're not going to use what you're putting in. So it's just food for thought. I'm not saying one way or the other, but I will recommend this. If you do your homework and you are starting to decide that maybe pet insurance is not the best for you, I do have a solution that I've recommended to my clients. It's going to take some discipline, and that is you can set up an account in Bowser's name. Okay, so just like you would a monthly premium, every month you would auto deposit the amount, whatever it is, say $50 a month, say 70, whatever it is, let's say 50, just makes it easy. So that means you got $600, all right, after the first year in Bowser's account. And you can do it in an interest-bearing, you get 1%, whatever it is, savings account. And then by year 2, you have $1,200, maybe $1,250, whatever it is. By year 3, you got $1,800, maybe $1,900. So what you don't use it for basic pet care. Use it it's saved for the rainy day. So let's say 3 years, 4 years down the road, there's an incident, something that happens, then you have that money put away for Bowser. It's Bowser's account. You couldn't touch it. It was automatic. Bowser has to sign for it. But the whole goal is that it is there for you to use for Bowser. Now, what's the beauty of this is that if you don't need it, if you never have that catastrophic event, guess what? It's still yours. Well, it's actually Bowser's. You have to ask him for permission, but it's yours. So the insurance companies obviously are shelling out money, but they also make a lot of money. So just FYI, something to keep in mind. And but the goal here is to just do your homework and take a little time. Next up, that because of advances in veterinary care and veterinary medicine and nutrition, things that we're learning and educating our pet parents over the years, pets, the good news, they're living longer. But what we are starting to see more of because of the extended lifespans that we are providing for our pets is we're starting to see more and more cognitive dysfunction, and call it doggy Alzheimer's. We are seeing it, dogs or even cats that are just sort of more of a despondency. So they don't really maybe know where they are. You might see them just circling, walking aimlessly, not recognizing you, getting stuck in a corner. All sorts of different ways that dogs and cats might start exhibiting signs of some sort of cognitive dysfunction. And just know that, speak to your veterinarian about it if you're noticing any of these types of symptoms, because again, there are supplements available. There are brain foods available. There's certain exercises you can do, environmental enrichment things you can do. So it's almost like people. So that there are certain things you can do if you catch it early, start working. So again, it's not a lost battle necessarily, but something that to your advantage, to your pet's advantage, to the relationship advantage that you want to maintain with them throughout their lives, even if they become somewhat cognitively dysfunctional, it's something to keep in mind. Anyway, don't go away. When we come back, we're going to talk about ears. I had a really interesting case actually this week, and I realized that it's something that should be discussed. So when we come back, we're going to talk about ears, recognizing ear disease, what to do about it, how fast to act, and what are some of the solutions you have or your veterinarian has to help your pets with really bad ear problems. So don't go away. We'll be right back.
We'll be right back, right after these messages. Stay tuned.
Today's episode is sponsored by Hanover Square Press and The Secret Language of Cats: How to Understand Your Cat for a Better, Happier Relationship by Suzanne Schatz. Have you ever wondered what your cat is saying? In The Secret Language of Cats, Schatz offers a crash course in cat phonics to help you crack the cat code. Perfect for the fans of The Lion in the Living Room and the inner life of animals. The Secret Language of Cats by Suzanne Schatz is available for purchase today.
Molly, here's your dinner. Zeus, that's not your food.
Don't let that happen to your precious cat. Elevate your cat's eating experience with the Cat Tree Tray. The Cat Tree Tray keeps your cat's food off the floor and conveniently located on the cat tree. It's the perfect way to eat. It's a beautiful wrought iron tray that easily attaches to your cat tree and keeps dogs and other critters out of your cat's dish. A must for multi-pet households. There's a 6-inch tray for large bowls and a 4-inch tray for smaller bowls. Purchase your Cat Tree Tray today. Go right now to cattreetray.com. That's cattreetray.com. CATTREETRAY.com.
It's designerpetsweaters.com. Hand-knitted designer sweaters for your precious pup or cool cat. Beautiful couture patterns for your pets, including custom-knitted formal wear, casual wear, yachting, and even sports-themed. Many designer pet sweaters include feathered tammy hats, top hats, and a lot of sparkle. Each sweater includes leg loops, front paw sleeves, and leash opening. Visit designerpetsweaters.com to order your four-legged fashions today. Your pets will stay warm for the winter and be runway ready. Large or small, we fit them all. designerpetsweaters.com.
Does your dog itch, scratch, stink, or shed like crazy? Come to Dinovite for help.
Order a 90-day supply of Dinovite.
Dinovite for life.
Pick up 2 tubes of Doggo Suds.
Get the 3rd tube free.
Peppermint, tea tree, lavender, Doggo Sud shampoo.
Made with all-natural coconut, jojoba, aloe. Great for healthy skin and soft, shiny coats.
But no itchy, harsh chemicals.
Lather up, rinse away.
Try Doggo Suds. Buy 2, get 1 free.
At Dinovite.com.
DINOVITE.com. Begging to hear more of your favorite show? Full episodes of all our shows are available on demand. Go to PetLifeRadio.com to fetch our entire lineup of Possum Pet podcasts. Also, dig us up in iHeartRadio and iTunes. Let's talk pets. Live and on demand only from Pet Life Radio. Let's talk pets.
Let's talk pets
On Pet Life Radio.
PetLifeRadio.com.
Okay. And welcome back. You're here live with Dr. Jeff Werber here on Pet Life Radio's Ask the Vets with Dr. Jeff. And before the break, we had mentioned that I want to talk about ears. You know, they are obviously essential organs. A dog's hearing, for example, cat's hearing is extremely sensitive, very acute. It's way better than their sight, actually. Their sense of hearing, their sense of smell far outcompetes their ability to see, at least see clearly and acutely. So, you know, one of the things that I worry about is ear disease is very, very common. And, you know, we can see ear disease for a number of reasons. And in the healthy ear, basically, there's a nice balance between the bacteria and the yeast, that they kind of keep each other in check. When that balance is disrupted, typically the yeast win out. And I would say most of the ear infections that we see are yeast infections we call Malassezia otitis. You see a black, kind of a waxy exudate. But though the ears smell, the dogs will scratch, shake their head, which is clearly signs that the ears of the pinna, which is the ear flap on the inside, can be red and inflamed. but though more common, they're usually not as severe. When the severity increases with bacterial ear infections, one really bad bug is called Pseudomonas, and that's where you get this. It's more of a lighter brown discharge, very smelly, very, very painful and tender to the ear. And if you are one that has been carefully trained by somebody, a veterinarian, a groomer, how to successfully, safely clean ears, you'll notice a really kind of stringy. They're both pretty disgusting. Don't get me wrong, but the Pseudomonas is really bad. But the key are when it comes to ears. First of all, recognition. As I said, some of the signs that your pet might have an ear problem are going to be scratching, obviously, head shaking, rubbing the ear against the floor, rubbing on a wall, carpeting, etc. If you lift up the ear, you will actually see the changes. The light pink part inside the ear is going to be much redder. The skin is going to often be thickened, almost like alligator skin. In fact, what I want you to do now, not right now, but certainly today, soon, start looking at your healthy, normal dog's ear. Because in order to know when it's no longer healthy or when it's abnormal, you need to know what normal is. So just get a really good look at your dog's, your pets, your cat's ears to see what is normal or not. We've talked about, several weeks ago, we talked about hematomas, which is that huge blood blister that they get probably from an ear infection. And some of the culprits that would cause this imbalance in the first place, as I mentioned, is going to be some sort of allergy. So we see something called allergic otitis, and it could be pollen allergies can cause. In fact, it's one of those organs that it can come either. We see ears can react to food allergens, they can react to pollen allergens, contact irritants. So ears can be. When it comes to ears, it could be one of many causes that can initiate an ear problem, ear infection. But here's the issue. When you see your dog uncomfortable, clearly uncomfortable, you lift the ear, you see the problem, it is critical to have the ears checked right away. Early treatment, early diagnosis is the key. So and here's the problem. When left alone, the ear canal, remember think of the anatomy of a dog's ear. So you have what's called a vertical ear canal, which is, maybe could be, depending on the size of the dog, obviously, but 1 inch to 2 and even 3 inches long. Then it takes a turn, not quite 90 degrees, but maybe 130 degrees down into a short horizontal canal. That is all we have, is a short horizontal canal. So when you think of the likelihood, because of moisture, because of darkness, because of any kind of problem in the ear, then you can clearly see why the dog's or cat's ear is so much more prone to a problem because of the pure anatomy. And then you take a dog with those heavy ears, the retrievers, the Newfies, the Great Pyrenees, the bloodhounds. So what happens is, when that ear flap is down, the pin is down, then the anatomy is even worse, because now you have even more darkness, more moisture, which is a better environment actually for the bacteria and the yeast. So these things all combine. Not to mention things like springtime. In fact, I should tell you, I just took a foxtail out of a dog's ear in January. Now, what's a foxtail? Foxtail is a little plant on, and they become huge problems during spring and a little less so during the summer, but it's definitely warm weather. You see they're dry, and they can only travel typically one direction, and that's usually in. So a dog gets in between the toes, up the butt, in the mouth. I've taken 50 out of a dog's tonsils before. But ears, they love ears. And when you see a dog just clearly uncomfortable, clearly shaking, it's very important that the ears are checked, whether it's going to be from an infection, from a foxtail, or another type of foreign body. So don't ignore it, and don't start cleaning your dog's ears out by yourselves until you are shown the proper way to do it. And there are proper ways. And you need typically a good ear cleaner. You need someone to teach you how to massage the ear. Too often people are doing it improperly, not getting to the meat of it. Now, here's the problem. the problem is that when left unattended, the ear, besides this extreme discomfort, I mean extreme discomfort for your pet, the canal itself over time with this chronic infection, chronic inflammation that's been left untreated, right, is now getting the cartilage is becoming hardened, and it's going to harden like bone. And that's where we start having real problems. Once that starts to happen, the progression of disease speeds up dramatically, which is why it is so important to have your pet's ears checked more regularly, especially if you have one of those breeds prone to ear problems. Number one on my list is going to be the Cocker Spaniel. But I mean, a lot of breeds, the retrievers, as I said, Shar-Peis, Chow Chows, there are a lot of dogs that will have, chronic ear problems because of just the thickness of the skin around anything that might occlude the entrance, the opening of that vertical ear canal can predispose them to really severe ear infections. So the problem is that once you get that hardening, you're left with mostly just surgical options. And the surgical options are somewhat limited. If you catch it really early, there's something called an LER, which is a lateral ear resection. That is obviously something that has to be done. Basically, it just opens up the vertical canal and sort of takes the outside of the skin away. And so now you can have an exposed vertical canal, easier to clean, easier to evaluate, etc. Next up comes the vertical canal ablation, my particular favorite. And I pretty much do that almost all the time. I like it better than the LER, the lateral ear resection. And that's where we do a procedure that removes the entire canal, vertical canal, and we basically have an opening. We recreate an opening about whatever it is. It's 1.5 to 3 inches down, depending on the size of the dog. And all they have now is a very short, fairly open horizontal canal. So basically, we make the canine ear look more like a human ear. The flap is still there. They can hear. It just eliminates much of the source of problem in these dogs with chronic disease. Then comes the biggest of them all, which really we try to get to them before we have to do this. And that is where there's a complete blockage. The entire vertical and horizontal canals are completely destroyed and infected. And that is called a total ear ablation, where this is usually typically done by a surgeon, a board-certified veterinary surgeon. I'm sure there are some GPs out there that have done them. I don't. I stop at the vertical canal ablation. And that's where you not only you have to go all the way, you remove the entire canal. And actually, by this point, there's usually severe infection in the bulla. And therefore, we have to also the surgeon performs what's called a bulla osteotomy. And when they go into that bulla, which is the total inner part of the ear, oh my God, they get the pus that comes out of there is absolutely disgusting. So, and they often have to put a drain in as well. That is a major, 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 did I say that enough times? Surgery. And after that, of course, you're removing the ability for the dog or cat to hear. I've never seen it in a cat. I'm sure it's been done. I'm sure it has to be done occasionally. But dogs are notorious, especially Cocker Spaniels. So, take-home lesson is check your pet's ears out regularly. If you know that they've had a history of ear problems, stay on top of it. Get them professionally looked at, cleaned on a regular basis, or make sure you have been trained and taught how to do it properly, and do it very often, a few times a week if needed, and also learn to recognize when there's a problem. You want to get to it right away. There are many, many treatments out there. Oftentimes, depending on severity and how common and frequent the infections are, your veterinarian is going to want to do what's called a culture and make sure that the medicine using is correct. As they get worse, the dogs will be treated both topically as well as parenterally. We're going to have to give, whether it's oral or injectable medications, depending on what is cultured. And even sometimes non-steroidals or steroidals anti-inflammatories to reduce the inflammation. Sometimes the ears are so inflamed that the topical medication or even the oral medication really can't get to work. So the inflammation has to be treated. And it's one of the few times that steroids are used in the face of an infection, because in order for the medication to work, we have to get some anti-inflammatory property. So anyway, a lot to handle. Ears, I'm telling you, there's nothing. Dogs are so uncomfortable with bad ears. So make sure if you have a problem, been having a problem, see your veterinarian, get some help, learn how to do the right thing, and it'll be easier on you, but most importantly, keep your pets much more comfortable. Anyway, that's all we have time for now. Thanks for joining me here in Pet Life Radio's Ask the Vets with Dr. Jeff. And we'll be back. I have 2 back-to-back conferences coming up. I'll be next week at VMX, which is the Veterinary Medical Expo in Orlando. And then I go to the Colorado Veterinary Medical Association, along with the American Animal Hospital Association annual winter meeting in Vail. So I will be gone. But if you need to get a hold of me, I will definitely answer questions. Reach me at Dr. Jeff, Dr. Jeff, at PetLifeRadio.com. And you can always see what I'm doing. Keep in touch with me on Instagram at Dr. Jeff Werber, W-E-R-B-E-R. It's one word, D-R-J-F-F, W-E-R-B-E-R. And we will be back soon. See you in a couple of weeks. Have great weeks. Bye-bye.